40 plus years, I more and more understand that, especially people of faith. Because by and large, the vast majority of counselors do not come from any kind of faith basis. Many of them do not even respect faith. Or they're ignorant regarding faith. Worst case, they see the faith as a roadblock to full psychological wellness. So I can understand that. I see more and more people of faith being nervous about counseling, about therapy. It kind of done a turn. 30, 40 years ago, counseling was the answer. You just go to counseling, get counseling, and that'll fix it. Well, we realize that counseling, by and large, isn't all that effective much of the time. We know that. That's what the research says. There's a lot of reasons for that, but that's the bottom line. And now a new element has been involved, which is, does the counselor understand or respect the person's worldview? That is critical. There's something in counseling called the therapeutic alliance, and that is, how much does the client trust the counselor in the attachment that the counselor truly has respect for the client's approach in some of their deepest held beliefs? That's big. It's a huge factor in success of any counseling. I got to run. Thank you for joining me here on The Doctor's In. Good Lord permitting, I'll see you Monday. I appreciate the company very much. I appreciate Andy Kruchek, all he does over there at Ave Maria Radio. Walk with God. And if you have his worldview, I think he pretty much respects it.
For information on Dr. Ray's presentations, books, and CDs, visit drray.com and follow him on Facebook and Instagram. The Doctor is In is a co-production of Ave Maria Radio and EWTN Radio and carried across the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.
Shining the light of truth on the path of salvation. This is the Guadalupe Radio Network, radio for your soul.
Are you or someone you know hurting from a past abuse? You don't have to suffer this alone anymore. Guided by faith and sound mental health trauma recovery tools, Dawn of Mercy Ministry provides retreats for survivors of sexual abuse and assault. The next English Women's Retreat is September 27th through 29th. For more information and to register for this retreat, contact Dawn of Mercy at 469-613-3296 or email healing@dawnofmercy.org. All inquiries are confidential.
Faith and charity are key elements of life, but are they at the center of your financial decisions? With the Knights of Columbus, you can pursue financial stability, but more importantly, you can do so in a way that is compatible with the Catholic teaching. For more than 140 years, they have helped families guard their financial future. Today, they have expanded their offerings to include retirement annuities, long-term care insurance, and disability income insurance. Your faith can inspire your financial decisions. Terms and conditions apply. You can learn more by calling Chris Stark at 844-656-1492.
When you go to Mass, do you ever feel restless and distracted? Has the Mass become routine? Do you long to be transformed? Awaken and ignite your spirit of joyful devotion with an 8-week book study, a devotional journey into the Mass. The book study begins Tuesday, September 3rd from 7 to 8:30 p.m. at St. Elizabeth Ann Seton Catholic Church in Keller. Be transformed with simple ways to make Mass a joyful time of intense devotion. For more information or to register, visit seas.churchcenter.com. Click on Sign Up.
Since 1991, the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops has formally directed Catholics to avoid investing in companies that violate Catholic teachings in areas such as abortion and contraception. With an over $26 billion investment platform, Knights of Columbus Asset Advisors offers investments compatible with the teachings of our Catholic faith. Certified financial planner James Bell is an investment advisor representative with Knights of Columbus Asset Advisors. He can be reached at 817-608-7853 to learn more about Catholic investments. Sponsor of Guadalupe Radio Network. Knights of Columbus Asset Advisors is an SEC-registered investment advisor and serves all investors. Investing involves risk. More information on the web at kofcaa.com.
Thanks for listening to KATH 910 AM, Frisco, Dallas, Fort Worth, and North Texas on the Guadalupe Radio Network. Catholic radio for your soul. Heard also at grnonline.com and on your smartphone. Welcome to Back to the Father, a show about the journey of life focused on our final end, which is God Himself, our loving Father. And now, here's your host, Dave Palmer.
And good afternoon. Welcome to Back to the Father this week here on the Guadalupe Radio Network social media sites. I'm Dave Palmer. Cecil Anderson is on the other side of the glass, and you are where you are right now. Okay. I know that sounds kind of simple, so kind of straightforward, but we're glad that you're watching this. You're either on YouTube or X or Facebook or TikTok, and I've been able to open up all the different platforms. Cecil's the one that kind of keeps an eagle eye on it. And when you comment, we want to hear what you have on your mind as we talk about the topic du jour, which is the angels. 10 interesting questions that St. Thomas Aquinas asks about the angels in the Summa Theologia. And you may have noticed that we have a kind of an ongoing theme that I picked 10 questions. We did 10 questions about God's nature, 10 questions about creation. I think last week was creation. And so the 10 seems to be a pretty good number of things. And unlike in the past where I splash a lot of text up on the screen and we read it, what I do rather is just put them in a question and a picture, and then I will kind of go through my notes here and tell you what St. Thomas Aquinas said on the particular topic, and then we can discuss it. And if you have any comments, we'd love to hear what you have on your mind as well. So that's what we're doing. Okay, so why study the Summa? Well, I study the Summa, and I think the people have been doing it for 750 years because it's a really good way to understand better our human nature. Okay, our human nature as related to God and the world around us and how it all kind of ties together. I see it as kind of a blueprint for life. Okay, we were created by God. We're headed back to God, hence the name Back to the Father. And how are we going to navigate the turbulent seas of this world in order to achieve our final end, which is union with God, without falling into too many pitfalls? And, we need grace, we need virtue, we need the Ten Commandments, we need the law, we need the sacraments. That's what the Summa is about, okay? And we also need the angels, all right? So why did God create angels, all right? He didn't create them. He created them primarily for us. I mean, we are the creatures that I think God is most concerned about. He didn't take on angelic nature. He took on human nature. And so the word angel means messenger, and so they brought the message in the Old Testament, and they continue to minister to us for good and for evil, good angels, bad angels. And so they're quite interesting. And so if you have a fascination or an interest in the angels, I have picked out 10 particular questions from the Summa that we'll discuss today. I mean, that's out of like 100 of them. I mean, probably over 100. So this is just the ones that I thought that might be of interest to you in discussing it today. So do comment and let us know where you are and if anything's on your mind as we go through this. And with no further ado, I am going to introduce Cecil Anderson, who's the producer of this program. Hey, Cecil.
Hello. Good to see people's comments, I guess. I was going to say see everyone. I'm like, I can't actually see everyone. But I hope to see your comments. Yeah. That was my smooth segue.
Yeah. So I've been able to get on to all the different platforms, and so it's going to be interesting. So do by all means, let us know what's on your mind, but I don't want to belabor too much, all the different platforms and all that. You know where you are, and you came here because you want to learn a little bit more about what St. Thomas Aquinas taught in the Summa. Cecil, can I ask you a grand favor before we get started? I always have.
You need water.
I need water because I'm not going to get through this show without water.
Yeah, I will go grab water.
I would get two of them cold. Thank you. I'm sorry. All right. I should have done that before the show started, but I apologize. All right. So did you know, you probably know that St. Thomas Aquinas' nickname is the Angelic Doctor. All right. And there are, in my opinion, in my thought, three reasons why he's called the Angelic Doctor. And by the way, Monique, great to have you with us. She's from Florida. Wow. And also League City, Texas. Nancy is there as well. Okay, so Sissel will keep track of all that. Okay, there's three reasons why St. Thomas Aquinas is called the Angelic Doctor. And I'll just kind of throw that out there. I mentioned it with Keith Downey on Tuesday morning during the Morning Joy. I don't know how many. There's Sissel on the screen giving me water. I just saw you pop up.
I thought I slipped by without being seen.
Nope. You were on camera. You're now. Everybody knows.
No.
So do you know, Sissel, to put you on the spot? Okay,
Certainly.
3 reasons that St. Thomas Aquinas would be called the Angelic Doctor. Can you think of one of them? I know I've mentioned these before on this show.
Well, the obvious one is that he wrote a lot about angels, which we could already mention. I think that's even in the description of our video and in the email. But was it also having to do with him and his particular devotion to chastity and stuff like that? Is that part of the reason why he's called Angelic?
Yeah, that's okay. You got 2. Because his purity, which there's a story of
the poker.
Yeah, right, exactly. When he decided to join the Dominicans, and his family didn't want him to be a Dominican because these were mendicant beggars. It was a very, very new order that had started by Saint Dominic, just probably a couple of decades before that, and so they wanted him to be like a big shot and running a monastery or something like that. He was clearly brilliant, and so they had high hopes for him, as any parents would. And then he goes off and he joins this mendicant begging order, and his mom is like, to the sons, we're not having this. Go get him and see if he'll change his mind. Put him up in the tower. He was put up into a tower for like a year, and he spent that whole time studying. But then what they did, and what Sissel's getting at, is they put a prostitute up there because they wanted to tempt him away from the distraction of all this learning and tempt him with the sin of the flesh, which is really an awful thing to do.
I can't imagine my family doing that to me, sticking a prostitute in a room with me. Like, what? That's kind of a dangerous,
especially if you're a people of faith.
Yeah,
and you figure,
what are you thinking?
If he falls into that sin and then he dies, he's in hell. I mean, it's like, I can't imagine a worse thing to do to a person.
So that story, honestly, if I was him, I also would have the fiery poker. Is that what he did?
So he grabs like a firebrand or something that he must have had a fire up there, and he chases her out. And the legend tells us that at that moment, God gave St. Thomas Aquinas the gift of purity. And the reason why I think he needed the gift of purity is that God knew that Thomas's task with his great intellect was to write a lot and to really expound a lot and synthesize all the Greek philosophy and the Muslim and Jewish philosophy and Saint Augustine and Jerome and Albert and all these things. And if he was too distracted by sins of the flesh and concupiscence, he wasn't going to be able to get it done. And so God gave him that gift of purity. So that's a long way of saying, yes, you're right about the second one.
I'm sitting here trying to remember what the heck the last one is. I know we've talked about it before, but so we've got, because he wrote about the angels, because of his chastity and purity. But what is the third one?
Third.
Is it really obvious?
I'd say so. Yeah, not to make you feel bad, but you can be tell me if you think it's obvious. The angels are really smart. Okay, they're highly intelligent. They are closer in essence to God than we are. And Thomas was really smart. Okay, so when we die, if we are so blessed to be able to get to heaven, and through God's grace, and our own, merit, cooperating with God, trying to cover all the bases here so I don't fall into heresy. We're going to have. And our minds will become like the angels. Okay,
we'll become angels. We'll become like the angels.
Yeah, you have listened. Yeah, we won't become angels, but our minds will change, and we'll become much more able to understand a lot of things like at the same time. Okay, so St. Thomas Aquinas had clearly a really, really brilliant intellect, and so those are the 3 reasons. All right, so as you have questions about these, let me know. I have a great interest in St. Thomas Aquinas and in the angels. And so what's the point in angels? All right, before we get started, what's the point in the angels is that, as we look around the created world, we see a lot of things. We see animals, dragonflies and pigs and cats and dogs and mountains and clouds. And we see all these things. And then, of course, we see our fellow man as well. And I think there's a certain sense that we have as we look around at the created world that we feel like in some way we transcend it. We're greater than the grasshopper or the earthworm or the lizard or the snake. And we just inherently realize there's something special about us. There's something different. We have this reasoning, capability. And then we also know naturally, as St. Thomas Aquinas would say, that there's a God. There's a God out there that created the world, and all this stuff didn't just come from nowhere, right? But then there's this huge gap between us and God, whereas there's a lot of hierarchy below us. You've got the really intelligent creatures like apes or dolphins or whatever.
Not my dog. Not my dog.
Not Sissel's dog. He's a little lower in the hierarchy, okay? And then you keep going down and down and down and down and down, and there's just hierarchy of being all the way down to, like, I don't know, but the paramecium or the amoebas. I don't know what would be the lowest thing on the rung, right?
No idea.
Sorry to offend the amoebas.
All the amoebas watching right now.
So then you've got this hierarchy, and then you get to us, and then God, and there's like this big gap. And so it makes sense, as St. Thomas Aquinas will explain in the Summa, that there are creatures that fill that gap, because we know that it's a pretty big jump to go from us to God. Okay, God's not like the next level. There's a whole big space that needs to be filled, and that's also why we have the 9 choirs of angels, because they come from the seraphim and the cherubim. There's 9 of them. I don't have exactly in order memorized, but the thrones and the dominations and the virtues and the powers and the archangels and the angels, right? And so there's a certain structure even within the non-corporeal creatures like that. And then you get to God. Okay, God's at the very top and way up at the top. So it just only makes sense that there would be angels filling up that gap. All right. And so the 10 questions that I chose, I hope you will find of interest. And the first one is whether the angels differ in species. Okay, and
cute little angel picture, by the way.
Yeah, isn't that cool? That is. Look, they're also like some of them look happy, and so that one at the bottom's kind of like, hey, what's going on? The guy on the top, So yeah, that's kind of cute. And by the way, we have to show angels visually because of the limitations of our, natures, that because otherwise it would just be a blank screen. Because angels are non-corporeal, they take on human. They'll assume human bodies, as we'll talk about here in the second question here. But this just popped into my mind, Sissel.
Okay.
Why don't we have any pictures, or are there pictures of angels that have assumed human bodies? Like when somebody can say, this was an angel, like I've never seen a picture.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
To be fair, I feel like most of the times that those situations happen, it's usually a really chaotic moment.
Yeah, you're not like, hey, can I take my camera?
Like I've heard of stories of people being in car accidents and being helped by someone, and then later on they're like, who is that person who helped me?
Yeah, and you're not thinking you're upside down in
they're
your car.
upside down, injured. They're not thinking to take a picture. But you're right. We don't. I mean, didn't you you had the gentleman who you think might have been an angel who saved your daughters?
In the middle of the ocean. Yeah,
you're in the middle of the ocean. You were not.
We're not in the middle. Exactly.
Your wife. No one was thinking, let's take a picture of this man, because in the moment you're not even recognizing that they are an angel, because it's later on when you realize, where did this person go? They don't exist.
Exactly. You don't even think about it. And if you were to be like, hey, can we gather for a picture? They're probably already gone. They're not like,
right.
They just don't do that.
I do have a question. There. This might be a little bit off slightly, but when that does happen, when angels are here on earth and they're in the form of a human, that's just like a random human form that they've just taken on. It's not like it's
like somebody.
It's not like it's somebody. That sounds really weird. It sounds like possession, but you know what I mean. I just want to make sure.
It's not like, hey, that's Uncle Joe with an angel, attached
That's not
to
like
him.
I'm going to possess this person here and take over.
That's a great question, because they create like a whole different person, because we know that of the billions and billions of people that have lived in the history of the world, no two look exactly alike, even identical twins. And so, it'd be like a whole different person. They say they're typically attractive physically, like they're good looking people,
Got it.
But okay, and I totally got us on to question number 2, and that's my fault, mea culpa. And then Sissel,
it further?
She ran with it. Okay,
Sorry.
so all right, so number 1, are the angel, do they differ in species? And you may know about this teaching is that every single individual angel is its own species. And this is an interesting question for this reason, is that St. Thomas Aquinas will teach that, there's one kind of human soul, okay? The billions and billions of human beings that have lived are all of one species, okay? We're all Homo sapiens, right? That's our species. But the billions and billions of them, we share a soul in the sense that it's the same kind of soul. It's a rational soul, all right? But what differentiates us, as we were just talking about a second ago, is our bodies, the material element, okay? So if somebody sees me and they see Sissel, they're not going to say, oh, I see one soul and I see a second soul. Okay, the souls are invisible. But what they're going to say is, well, one's a woman, one's a man, one has long hair, one has short hair. And so what differentiates us within the species of Homo sapiens is the material element. So clearly with an angel, you don't have that. You don't have a body. You don't have anything that can differentiate them bodily, right? And so what's going to differentiate them? What's going to differentiate them is, and they don't have souls, because angels don't have souls, they're pure spirit, is, what they are, the substance of what they are has got to be different. Otherwise, they'd all be the same angel, right? So every single one is its own species. But that raises the question that I don't necessarily have an answer to, but you can jump in and discuss this if you'd like, is that the only difference between me and Sissel, or me and Kent, or me and Joe, or Sissel and Patty, or somebody in our office, is not just our bodies, right? I mean, isn't there some distinguishing feature of our soul that makes us unique, or is it because the personality is not in our body? Our body reflects our personality, but I wouldn't say I'm a gregarious person because of my body, or Sissel's a hardworking person because of her body. I mean, so again, I don't necessarily. So
it's kind of like our soul has a DNA too, like a form of DNA, like that only is unrepeatable, that's only in us.
But then that would, if that was, I don't know. Yeah, but then, okay. So I would say so. Like,
there's something that makes
my soul is of the same species, I guess you could say, as yours, but it's different, So, anyways, okay, kind of an interesting. Well, it's kind of like topic.
Okay, you mentioned like identical twins are never going to be completely 100% identical, and there's going to be a lot of things in their body that's not the same, but they look very similar, but then their personalities could be completely different too.
Yeah. So, but even then, they're not going to be identical. But anyways, kind of an interesting concept there. All right, and I know you'll jump in if anybody has any comments or thoughts.
I have Mickey says thank you for the angels, God. So I agree. We've got a very girl heavy chat today. Nancy, Mickey, and Nicole are all here.
Girl power.
Girl power.
All
today.
Right, girls unite. All right. So, anyways, thank you, ladies, for being with us today. All right. So we already kind of got into the second one, but this one is whether angels assume bodies. And are we able to put the pictures up on the screen? We are. Okay. I wasn't sure if that was the case. Okay. So whether angels assume bodies. And I've got a picture here. Looks like a kind of a young boy, maybe like a 12-year-old boy, and he's got angel wings on. Okay, the first thing to understand is that when angels assume human bodies, they don't like have wings, you know.
Man, so disappointing.
Right? They're not going to have wings on them because no human has a wing, right? So this is just a silly picture that I found, you know, in the haste of trying to find something for this particular question. So, you know, and Cecil brought up the interesting question about what body do they assume? Is it a body of somebody that exists? And but to my knowledge, it would just be this original, unique body and have features that has never existed before. And St. Thomas in this one, he says, they assume bodies because, first of all, there's stories throughout Scripture of people coming across angels. It's like really common. With Our Lady at the Annunciation, and Saint Joseph, had visions of angels, and Raphael in the Book of Tobit, and Raphael appearing and helping them, and so there's all kinds of stories. The lion's den with Daniel, and so if Scripture is inerrant and truthful, well, then you don't really need any more proof. Obviously, the angels come and people saw them, and so they had to have assumed some kind of bodies, right? And plus, there's also tons of stories from people like Mother Angelica who have had encounters with angels as well. And it looked like you were going to say something.
I was thinking, Mickey was saying on YouTube, back to our discussion about souls and bodies being unique, and she was saying that like our fingerprints and DNA are similar in makeup but unique and stuff like that. Yeah. So maybe that's how it is with our souls as well.
Isn't that cool that no two people have the same fingerprint?
It's so wild. That's why all these criminals have done all sorts of crazy things to make their fingerprints not. They think even you have to. I don't think there's really any. Besides, like, apart from like just chopping your fingertips off, I don't think from what I acknowledge, I don't think there's any way you can actually completely erase your fingerprint.
Yeah, it makes you a little harder to be a good criminal though if you don't have fingertips.
Yeah, they might catch a picture of you and be like, just look for the guy who chopped off his fingertips. Yeah, it might be a little incriminating. He's like, I was trying not to be incriminating, but here I am.
Yeah, exactly. So, one of the questions that Aquinas asks that I find interesting also in the Summa is he says whether the angels exercise functions of life in the bodies assumed. And it's obvious that they do. And what he means by that is once they assume a body, they don't just kind of sit there and, they got a body, they got to move around. I don't know if they eat or do they
are they around
take
long enough to where they'd be like, let's eat,
Yeah, let's go like grab a beer at the and so he says vital functions can be performed in assumed bodies by the angels as to that which is common in such operations, but not as to that which is special to living subjects. I don't know exactly what that means, but yeah, clearly they do take on some of the actions that a person would have. All right, so the third one is an angel in a place? Because if you look at something like this, which is my pen or my water bottle, it's in one place because it has matter, and it can't be in the next room because it's here. It can't biolocate. And so then when you take the angels, for example, that don't have bodies and you can't see them, are they in a place? I feel like, I guess because I talk about this in so many different venues, like this is, you know the answer to this, right? Okay, I don't feel so bad.
Well, okay. Yeah.
No, I'm actually glad that it didn't come right to your mind.
No, restate the question one more time just to make sure I'm understanding.
Is an angel in a place? Like
no.
A particular place. Like if an angel was here on my computer, could it also be in the next room? The one particular angel.
One.
Okay.
Yes. No.
Yeah.
Wait. I think I'm confused by the way that you're
saying. Okay. I didn't ask it right.
I'm confusing myself with the way the question is stated. But what you're saying is that can it be in two places at once?
Yes.
No.
Okay. It cannot be in two places at once.
No.
Okay.
That's my memory.
Yeah. That's
right?
Okay. That's good.
Oh, good. Because I was going to say, I think that's a God thing.
I'm glad that you didn't just like, oh yeah, we've talked about this a whole bunch of times. And so the people watching probably might be learning this for the first time. And and I'll read this because it's really interesting, because only God is everywhere at the same time, and that is his quality or his attribute of being infinite, right? He's everywhere at the same time through his power. But an angel is not infinite, and so an angel has to be in one place at one time. But how are you to be in a place when you don't have a body? How does that work? And it's actually quite interesting. And St. Thomas Aquinas says, An angel is said to be in a corporeal place by application of the angelic power in any manner, whatever, to any place. Okay, so it's an application of its power, its will, its intellect, right? And so you can imagine, being somewhere else than where you are right now. So I'm in the KATH studio, and Cecil's in the control room, and I'm looking over there at our conference room, and I can, in my mind, say, I can imagine myself being over there. Now, what if I were to say, I will myself to be in that room, right?
I will myself to move all the time, and it doesn't work.
I know.
Like, the amount of times I forgot to turn off a light when I get into bed,
And
then I'm just sitting there
you're
going
oh, man.
Like, I'm just going to sit here. I'm like, yep, I'm there. I'm not.
Yes, you've
Doesn't work.
actually done this little mental exercise.
Oh, yeah. I'm just like, come on.
Well, I'll tell you that in heaven, and I think you've heard this, in heaven, you will be able to move your body through your will. Okay,
God bless.
so someone might be thinking right now, gosh, I'd like to be in Paris, or I'd like to be in London, or, what have you, Frankfurt. Well, an angel, just by the application of the power of their will be there. Okay, so that's how they move. He says an incorporeal substance, that's an angel, an incorporeal substance. I'm glad we call them angels and not incorporeal substances.
Substance just sounds so impersonal.
Yes, substance is a very interesting word in philosophy.
Is.
You're a substance. Did you know that?
That's kind of rude.
I mean, I'm a substance. You're a substance.
All I can think about is substance abuse whenever you say substance. And that just sounds wrong.
God is substance. Yeah, like substance being like alcohol or something, right? An incorporeal substance virtually contains the thing with which it comes into contact and is not contained in it. For the soul is in the body as containing it and not contained by it. Okay, so our body doesn't contain a soul. Our soul contains the body. And that may sound like you're splitting hairs there, but I guess we are, and that's what he says. Okay, so application of power. And then there's another question that that follows this in the Summa is about whether or not angels can move. And it's quite fascinating because how do they move? And do they move instantaneously? Or if an angel moves 3 feet, do they kind of go in every single spot in between point A and point B? Are they moving like kind of in space? Or is it just like one moment they're here and the next moment they're
are
there?
they being, not to get a little nerdy here, are they being like a Star Trek and they're getting like being beamed up from one location? Kind of just like, I'm here and now I'm here, or are they like kind of dragging through?
Yeah,
kind of like
exactly.
the Flash running really fast.
Yeah, exactly. Flash.
Are they the Flash or some other superhero that can instantly the Martian?
Yeah, and Aquinas kind of punts on this one, and he says it could be either way. The truth is we don't know. I mean, if you're going to speculate on something like this, you just don't know. But if an angel applies his angelic power to a different place, then whether or not he goes, kind of in every single space in between or just kind of pops up in that new place, Aquinas basically says, I don't know. But he says if he does, whatever he does, it's nearly instantaneous whether or not he moves like that or not.
I guess it's one of those deeply philosophical things, like theological things that we have to know and understand in our faith. But it's kind of an interesting one to talk about.
And that's the thing I love about Aquinas. I've mentioned this before, is not trying to judge anybody, okay, so don't feel judged, but I think for the most part we have lost the sense of like curiosity about things because, we have everything at our fingertips, and anything we want to learn, we can go online, and now you got AI and all that kind of stuff, and just kind of looking at the world or thinking about God or thinking about the angels, and he's got all these questions that pop into his mind, and as Cecil mentioned, they may not be like that consequential or important in the big picture of, salvation, whether an angel moves, how an angel moves, but at the same time, it's kind of interesting. And, there's probably worse things you could spend your time thinking about than angels, right? And so that's number 3. Number 4 is whether there is an active and a passive intellect in the angel, okay? And you may be thinking like, what in the world is he talking about? Is there an active and a passive intellect in the angel? And the reason this is important is that it's funny because at this part of the Summa, Thomas has not yet gotten into what we call human nature. Okay, there's going to be a whole treatise on human nature. He's going to go through all the different aspects of, passions and appetites and intellect and will and knowledge and all this kind of stuff, right? But he hasn't gotten to that yet. But at the same time, we have active and passive intellects. And what it means is that we passively or potentially have the ability to know all things, all right? So it's a part of our intellect that is kind of like passively waiting to learn something, right? Because we don't know what a dog is until we experience a dog, okay? Or at least somebody explains a dog to us. We have to learn it. We have to have some kind of experience in order to come to know things. Nobody was born knowing trigonometry or algebra or calculus or the periodic table of elements, right? You had to experience it, but potentially we were able to potentially know it. Okay, with the angels, it's different because all of the knowledge of an angel is infused at the moment they're created. And so everything that they need to know in order to function in their angelic selves is infused at the moment that they're created. And so there's no potentiality because it's all just there, all right? So they don't need potential for it. It's just, boom, it's there. I guess you can say before they were created there was potential, but with us, like I have the potentiality to know a lot of things that I've never learned before because I haven't experienced them yet. But then it also goes back to our minds being angelic when we get to heaven, because then that potentiality will become more like infusion, like the angels. And so we're not learning things little by little, but God's going to infuse our minds with a whole bunch of knowledge that we didn't know of while we were here on earth. Okay, does that make sense? Is everybody following all about this?
Have we kept everybody? Is everyone okay?
Is everybody okay? Now here's the other thing that's interesting, though, is that, and we'll get to this. I think this is going to be one of the questions that we're going to get to, is that angels don't know the future. Okay, so the angel, like my guardian angel, doesn't know what I'm going to have for breakfast tomorrow morning. My guardian angel doesn't know, it probably knows that I'm going to Arkansas tomorrow, but it doesn't know which road I'm going to take, or maybe it can figure that out, but it doesn't know the future. Okay, so there has to be some element of potentiality because there are things that they're kind of learning as they go along. Experiential knowledge of like the things that are happening in the world that they didn't know about beforehand because they haven't happened. Now, God knows all that because God knows everything in like an eternal now, but the angels don't. Okay, so in that regard, there's potentiality, but that which they know naturally at the moment they're created, there's no potentiality. Okay, are you with me? Okay, it seems like everybody's just like, well, what the heck is he talking about?
Everyone is processing.
Yeah. I told you, who was it that? It was Paul Coker on the Beatitudes when he said, "Go ahead and put that on half speed if you want to make sense of it." So, anyways, if it's going too fast, let me know. If it's going too slow, let me know. We'd love to get your feedback, and if it's just like the porridge for the three little bears, just perfect and just right, not too big, not too small. If it's just right, then awesome as well. Okay, now the next one we're gonna get at. How cool! We're 30 minutes into the show,
and exactly halfway
we have
through.
Finished. Okay, now number 5. Do angels understand by species drawn from things? Okay, so I'm going to ask Sissel because she's the only person in my line of sight. What do you think that question even means?
One of these days, I'm just going to duck behind the desk so you can't see me. Wait, hold on.
Remember the time we had Teresita here and you were able to take like a quick break?
It was a great
We used to have our interns that came in.
Yeah, they could be the ones who could just sit there confused.
They can take the blow.
Okay. Read the question again for me.
Whether the angels understand by species drawn from things. Okay, and I want somebody out there.
Make sure. Yeah,
okay,
please.
what exactly does this mean? Okay, what does it mean to draw a species from things?
The only thing I could think of is sorry.
Yeah, that's the only thing.
Yeah, the only thing I can think of is nothing. Is that are we talking about when do angels learn things via they look at something and taken observation from it? Is that what it's saying?
Yeah, I mean that's close.
Okay.
You have to. if you go back and this is so fundamental. Okay, if you enjoy philosophy and you want to get into philosophy, you have to. And I'll do a quick history of like Greek philosophy. Is that Plato had this idea of the realm of forms, okay, like the allegory of the cave, the forms, and where he believed that what we saw here on earth are just shadows, okay? So this is just a shadow of a pen, according to Plato. The form of penness is up in some other realm, right? It's up there somewhere, and like the perfect pen that this pen participates in. And then Aristotle came along and said, no, the form is actually in the thing itself, and then Augustine said, well, okay, but that form that's in the thing is also originates in the mind of God. So if this pen has a form of penness, what he's saying is that the human beings have to abstract the form out of it. So when we look at it, our eyes only see the physical structure of it. Okay, if I look at Sissel across the glass, all I see is what my eyes are able to see. But what I see is not Sissel.
Right.
I mean, I see like arms and hair and a nose, but that's just like our physical properties. But what my mind is able to do is like draw out of that and say, he's Sissel or human being. Okay, so that's what he's talking about. And so by species drawn from things, your first thought should be, well, the angels can't do that because for two reasons, okay? The first reason is they don't have senses, okay? So they can't see something and then still have to draw like what it is out of it because they don't have senses. They don't have eyes and that kind of thing. So they can't see a body, right, in that sense. And the other thing is that they don't have to, because all the knowledge, as I mentioned before, was all infused in them in the first place. Okay, so they already have it. So they don't have to draw species out of things. The whole drawing species out of things is really interesting. I mean, it's, at least for me, I mean, I find this so fascinating, and I actually incorporate it into like my daily life, as I look at things. Because if you understand that the form of things originates in God, as Augustine said, then everything that you encounter throughout your day is an encounter with God. All right? It's kind of like if you have kids and you come across, a drawing that they did at school and you see it, you're going to appreciate the drawing because it leads you to something you love. You love your kid. You don't really love the drawing in and of itself, because if it was the neighbor kid that drew it, it wouldn't mean as much to you, right? But it's pointing to the creator of it, okay? And that's how the whole world is that everything is pointing to the creator. And that's where this whole abstraction of forms ultimately leads us, if we're able to incorporate that into our life. And so one day I want this to be in every single school where they teach it like this, and every kid is going to begin to see the world differently and have a greater appreciation for God, manifested through the created world. Okay, I have a dream, just like Martin Luther King, right? All right. So does that make sense? Species drawn from things, and hopefully that makes sense to you. All right. So now this one, okay, number 6. Do the higher angels understand by more universal species than the lower angels?
Basically, are the higher angels smarter than the lower angels? Is that what we're saying?
Yeah.
Have a greater
smarter
understanding.
May be a little simple,
okay.
But
well, I'm a simple person,
okay.
Dave.
So here, let me explain this. And this has only recently started to really kind of make sense to me. Okay, so God is perfectly simple, and one of the ways that God is simple is that everything that He knows is like instantaneous, and He knows everything at one moment under basically one, I guess you could say, one species. Okay, like imagine, I use the example of a house. Okay, think of a house. And right now, even though you're thinking of a house, you could break it down and say, oh, that house has a front door, a back door, it has shutters, it has a window, it has glass, it has a garage, it has 3 bedrooms, it has a refrigerator in it, it has tile floors, it has walls. Okay, so if you see the house as a whole, in your mind, you also know all those particular things, okay? Now imagine when you think of house, you had a very, very vivid image of all those particular things in your mind, but you're seeing it as one whole thing. And you could say a lower intellect would have to look at one thing at a time, okay? They have to think of the door. They have to think of the vinyl siding. They have to, okay, so they're thinking it much more kind of complex way, and they put all these things together, and that makes the house. Whereas if you were to think like, I'm thinking of it as one big whole. So now take the entire world and every particular thing, past, present, future, and put it all in like one glance. Okay.
Ouch. That's made my brain hurt a little bit.
And that's God. Okay. So God sees it that way. Okay. It's beyond our comprehension. So now you take a layer down and say, what if some creature was able, not that well, but maybe instead of one glance, it's like 8 glances, like you see things very broadly, but in large categories. Okay, so here's the example that I'll leave you with this one. Okay, imagine that you were able to know, Sissel, just in the United States. Okay, when you think of United States as a whole, like as a one thing, and you were able to know every single person that's ever lived in the United States, every shirt that every single person wore, every thought that they've had, every action they've ever done, every sin they've ever committed, okay, in one glance, okay? I mean, it's a tall order, okay? But imagine that you were able to do that in a momentary and all that. Then that's a really high thing to be able to do. Now, let's say somebody else could only do it for Texas, and another one could do it for Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, California, and New Hampshire. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you're kind of rising. So the first one would be like the highest angel, and they can see a whole lot of things under fewer species. Okay, whereas the lower angels have to have larger species. Maybe like the lowest angel only really knows everything that has to do with me. Okay, because he's my guardian angel. Okay, but that's a pretty small picture in the big picture. Maybe the highest angel knows everything in a particular region of the world or something like that. That's the best I can explain it. Okay, so they see by more universal species than the lower angels. Okay, so everybody out there, give me feedback. Is this making sense? Because it's only recently started to make sense for me, and I don't know if I'm explaining it very well. But I
think you're explaining it the best. It's kind of a big idea, but I think you explained it the best that it could be explained. By the way,
it is a big idea.
Debbie Georgiani's in the chat.
Oh, okay.
And now I can't. This is for the last subject we were just talking about, the last question. She said, "Excellent teaching." Can't say anything about the from then on.
Yeah. Okay. Was she referring to which one? And, she's an angel.
Yeah,
expert.
I know. Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
We should have had her on like the phone. I mean,
that would have been smart.
Not that Debbie needs like another show to do. She's already on like half the time on Catholic radio. Okay, Tim says he thinks I'm doing well. All right, very good.
That's great.
All right, so again, this is one of those things that makes Thomas really brilliant, is that he has these ideas, and when you read the Summa, you have to really soak on this. I mean, I've been teaching this for 11 years to high school kids, okay? And every single time I teach it, it makes a little bit more sense. And it's not just abstract, okay? This kind of stuff really does change the way you see the world. I mean, it's not just pie in the sky, ivory tower nerdy, musings. This is actually very important stuff, because you begin to see much more the way that God has arranged the world. And as I mentioned the other day, it also can be correlated with the intellectual virtue of wisdom, which is the highest of the intellectual virtues, which means that you see things with the big picture. The big picture. A foolish person gets all wrapped up in every single incident of their life, and they get all they get stuck in traffic and it ruins their day, or they get an email that offends them a little bit and they get all wrapped up. Okay, a wise person sees the big picture, and they see the big picture regardless of what happens to them. And this is similar to what we're talking about with the angels, because the highest of the angels, you could say, sees a really, really broad expanse of a picture. And the lower you go down in these, non-corporeal substances or creatures, they get a little bit more specialized, I guess you could say, and don't see things so broadly like the angels do. And then, of course, at the top of the entire order is God himself, and he sees every single thing, past, present, future, in a single glance, right? So anyways, well, thanks for the feedback, and let me know.
Debbie says she's learning from you.
Oh, good. Well, that says a lot, because Debbie has spent many years studying this. In fact, the first time I met Debbie in person was in Buffalo when she and I were working on a pledge drive together. And I think that's one of the things that we talked about is when I told her I was teaching a class online, and I told her, I'm teaching on the angels this week, and she's like, "Oh, the angels! I love the angels."
That's awesome.
And so,
and we also have Timoteo is on Twitter, and he's been messaging there, and he's like, "Said fancy seeing you here, Debbie." Yep.
Oh, wow.
All the people come together for Back to the Father.
Yeah. Well, Timoteo is like the morning joy guy.
I think he should get a sticker or
like
a badge.
He's like there every single morning. So, Timoteo, great to see you. Thanks so much for being with us. Okay, so we're on the home stretch now, and this one is number 7, whether the angels know the future.
Ooh.
And as I mentioned before, angels don't have the ability to know the future. But Thomas in this, and let me see if I can find the wording of how he expresses this, because it's really quite interesting the way he describes this, because he says the future can be known in 2 ways. First, it can be known in its cause, and thus future events which proceed necessarily from their causes are known with sure knowledge, as that the sun will rise tomorrow. Okay, do we know the sun's going to rise tomorrow? Yeah, pretty much. Okay. Why? Because it seems to do that every single day. So what, if you remember the movie Nefarious, you saw that, didn't you, Sissel?
I actually never did.
You never saw Nefarious?
I never saw Nefarious, no.
Okay. So let's say I'll give an example from my personal life, and this is not about Nefarious, but this played a part in Nefarious, because this Nefarious, this demon knew this man so well in a very creepy kind of way, right? And he literally had a book of all this information about the man that we found out at the end of the movie. But I get up at about either 6 or 6:30 every single morning. I walk down to my kitchen, I turn on Morning Joy, and I listen, and sometime about 15 minutes later, my son will come down, okay? Well, I know the pattern of my son, almost to the point where I know exactly what he's going to say when he comes down. He's going to say, "Hi, Dad, good morning. What day is it? No, it's Friday. What do we do on Friday?" So I know him. Why? Because I've lived with him a long time. When my wife or my daughter comes down, I kind of know that we all have patterns, right? We all live in patterns, and we made, when we drive, we made always speed or always drive slow. So the angels know these kind of things. So if I'm, the angel knows me so well, and your angel knows you so well, that they're such good, observers of human nature, that they know brilliantly what our habits are. And so they know, in a sense, what we're going to do because they know us, right? Just in the same way you probably know how your roommates are going to react, right, if you give them certain news, or them because you know them so well. Okay, but then in and of itself, the angels don't know the future. Okay, they're not, only God knows the future, but because the angels are so brilliant, they know in that regard. Hopefully that makes sense. All right, number 8. Oh boy, we're running out of time here. Okay, did the angel obtain beatitude after one act of merit? Okay, so I'm going to throw this out there to everybody who's watching this. Why would it be, based on what we've already said previously, that an angel would be judged for good or for bad at the moment of, they're created, and then God basically says, are you with me or are you not? And the angel has to make a decision like in that first instant, and they're either beatified and blessed or they're damned at that moment, and it's irrevocable. And as I mentioned on Morning Joy on Tuesday, this is one of the blessings of being a human being, is that we get a bunch of chances. Okay, we fall, we sin, we get up, we go to confession, we plead for mercy from God, we have things like divine mercy and Faustina and all this. And so, but when we die, it's over. When you die, that's it. You're judged. And so, but the angels get judged at the moment. So why would that be? Based on what I've already said about their knowledge and the way they come to know things. Does anybody know this? All right, I'm going to take a break to take a sip of water.
In case you're asking me, I have no idea. So,
well, okay. So you're going to go through your life and you're going to learn about God. You're going to learn about the mysteries of grace, and you're going to learn about the Trinity. But you do this over a long span, right? And then at some point when you die, you're either going to be in a state of grace or you're not, right? The angels, since they're infused with all of the knowledge that they need at the moment of their creation, they don't need any time. Okay, they know what they need to know. They already know the Ten Commandments. They already know the gifts of the Holy Spirit. They already know the order of where the Blessed Mother and Jesus kind of fall in the pecking order, and they're either going to accept it or they're not. And maybe through pride they're going to say nope. Like it says in Scripture, I will not serve, and they make their decision. Or else they say, okay, based on like let's say you're a juror in a court case, Sissel, right?
Okay.
And let's say that court case runs, 3 weeks.
Okay.
So if they said, "Can you make the verdict? What do you think, guilty or innocent, Sissel, on the first day?" You would say,
I can't tell you.
I can't tell you. But then you go through those 3 weeks and you get all the evidence, right? And you get all this stuff piled up. And then on the last day, they say, "Okay, now you've got all the information you need. What's your decision?" Okay. And then you'll say he's guilty or he's innocent, right? That's the best comparison, is that the angels don't have to go through these 60, 70, 80 years of life to get all the information and make their mistakes and then repent and come back. They already know it all. And so God creates them. He says, okay, I've infused all the knowledge into you. What's your decision? And it's like up or down, and it's irrevocable, okay, at that point.
I'm really glad that's not us.
Yeah, I know. That's the blessing of being a human being. It's not like that. Okay, so number 9, can a beatified angel sin?
Ooh.
Okay, can a good angel sin?
Well, okay, maybe I don't know what I'm talking about here, so just bear with me a second, because that's pretty.
I like that.
But when does that? Okay, then I'm sorry if you already said this and I spaced out. But with Satan, because he's a fallen angel.
Yeah.
Was when he decided to turn away from God, was that at that moment that he said, no, I don't want this? That's when he...
Yeah, he would have made a decision
so that
right
would,
away.
So that would not have been... So that's not like a sin after, having... Okay, so I'm going to say no then? Only because I don't have any knowledge of an angel doing that.
Yeah, I got into a conversation with a guy today, and he brought up a really, really interesting point. I don't know that I have a really great answer for it, but... because we often say, like, why is there evil in the world? Right. And the classic answer is that there's evil because God gave us free will. And if we didn't have free will, we wouldn't be able to love him in return, because then we'd just be robots. We'd be programmed. Right. But there's also a teaching of our faith that says that when we get to heaven, God willing, through his grace, right? When we get to heaven, we will be united to God, and that is the ultimate good. And when you're united to God as the ultimate good, it's impossible to turn away from that, because why would you? Okay, and so what the question this guy posed to me is, he said, well, why didn't God just create the world like that in the first place? Because the angels still have free will. God has free will. God's not going to sin, and the souls in heaven have free will, but they never are going to be able to sin because they're united to God, which is the ultimate goodness. And so the question he posed was, well, why didn't God just create that world? And then you can't fall back on free will because they have free will. And the only thing I could think of was that, this is like if you don't, I use the example of you don't appreciate a beautiful day unless you've experienced a bad day. You don't appreciate a good friend unless you've witnessed a bad friend. And so good becomes better by comparison to its opposite. And even if you were in heaven and you were beatified and you were united to God and you still had free will, you would never have experienced the opposite, and so it wouldn't be as sweet. I don't know if that's a good answer or not, but that's the best answer I can give of why, to this guy's point, why did God have to create this world and give us free will and the opportunity to sin? Why not just unite us all to himself and we're all happy and, hunky-dory and everything's great? I don't know.
Yeah.
Interesting question.
It is.
Okay.
Tim also has a very interesting question on YouTube. He says, I want to know if an angel can make a mistake. Like if my guardian angel tries to save me from a car wreck and fails.
Yeah.
Is that possible?
Make a mistake.
Like not that they're doing something wrong, I think is what Tim's saying. Not that they're doing something wrong or against God.
Is that Timoteo or Timot?
Timot.
Okay.
But can an angel fail, I guess you could say. Fails to help us. My guardian angel fails to help us in some way.
Gosh, I
man,
messed that one up.
He was falling and I tried to catch him and I just couldn't.
We get in an accident that he's going to come help us. He shows up at the wrong street or something.
Yeah, something
stupid,
he suddenly he's watching and all of a sudden, oh no, they're about to get hit by a car, tries to help me, but then it just doesn't happen.
Yeah, gosh, that's...
And Debbie says, this is what Debbie's response is. She says, they are on a mission. It's us that messes things up if we work against them, so it's on us if something goes wrong, which honestly, I'm all down for blaming us.
Yeah, yeah, I'll trust Debbie's on that one. But anyways, good question. Thank you, Debbie, for jumping in, and she gets the save, okay? She saves the host. All right, final thing here, whether our atmosphere is the demon's place of punishment. You ever thought about that? When demons are punished, are they here or are they in hell? Okay, are they kind of roaming around here or are they all stuck in hell?
Do they find Arizona heat to be the place to?
Arizona heat would probably be comfortable.
That's what I'm saying. So I'm wondering if here could be more uncomfortable than.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody want to guess about this? Or are all the demons here in Earth, or are they all in hell and they just kind of are able to remotely torment us on Earth? Or is it some are in heaven and some are in hell and they're hey, well, what do you think? Thomas actually gives an answer to this. He says, a twofold place of punishment is due to the demons. One, by reason of their sin, and that is hell. And another, in order that they may tempt men, and thus the darksome atmosphere is their due place of punishment. Now, the procuring of men's salvation is prolonged even to the judgment day. Consequently, the ministry of the angels and wrestling with demons endure until then. Hence, until then, the good angels are sent to us here, and the demons are in this dark atmosphere for our trial, although some of them are even now in hell to torment those whom they have led astray, just as some of the good angels are with the holy souls in heaven. But after the judgment day, all the wicked, both men and angels, will be in hell, and the good in heaven. So his answer is, some of the demons are in hell, tormenting those who are in hell. Some of them are here trying to lead us into sin. Some of the good angels are in heaven. Some of them are here. And I wonder if it's divided by the orders, the hierarchies. So the seraphim are they all
do demons want to be in a particular place?
Well, I mean,
is there a place where they're that's where I want to be?
I'd rather be in.
Yeah, and I guess it's the same for the angels, but the angels rather be just in heaven always.
Yeah, I would think the angels just want to do God's will.
Right.
You know, the good angels.
So demons, they obviously don't really have much goodwill going about them. So what do they?
Yeah. I don't know.
I don't know, because I'm curious if we're talking about a punishment, what would be considered punishment for them? Does that mean they have a place that they want to be?
Or like the place they want to be, God says, well, you're going to the other place.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
That's what I'm saying, because that would be a more torturous thing.
More torturous. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, a lot of this stuff, like I said, is speculation.
I could have given Aquinas a run for his money on the question. Now, I don't have answers for any of them, and I probably will not spend the time to think about them, but I would throw out the most random questions towards him.
And that's why when I go on vacation, Sissel fills in and has really done brilliantly, by the way. I remember listening to you when I was on vacation one time, and I was like, you know what? I like her better than me. She does a great job.
Dave's like, I can go on vacation every once in a while.
Yeah, that's awesome. So
Debbie says that in an exorcism, the demons don't want to go back to hell because they are punished by Satan.
Oh, okay. Well, Debbie would certainly know that. I mean, you work with Adam Bly, for as long as Debbie has, and you get all this information in. All right. Well, that's going to do it. That was so perfectly timed. It's like 59 minutes after the hour now. And I want to thank you for watching, participating, your feedback. It makes such a big difference, when you're commenting. And thank you, Debbie, for taking time, and Tim also, and Tim Mateo, and Nancy, and all the other folks. Mickey, thanks for being with us as well. And next Friday, let's see.
We'll be on next Friday, yes.
Yeah, next Friday we're going to have a show. I think we're going to do probably the Beatitude.
Dave, we need to get this down before Share-a-thon.
I did it. Jeff Scheffelbein has a podcast called The Beatitudes. And I always, in my mind now, when I want to say Beatitudes, I say Beatitudes, because it's actually easier to say Beatitudes than Beatitudes. And he was in studio with me this week, and I was like, Jeff, you've ruined me, man. I always say Beatitudes. Okay, so.
And for reference, in 2 weeks, so starting Monday, September 9th, we'll be doing our Share-a-thon, and it's called Living the Beatitudes, which is why Beatitudes is very much on our minds right now. So please keep that in mind and kind of support us.
And further confusing things.
Oh, dear.
Greg Popchak was on the radio the other day. He wrote a book called The Beatitudes or something.
No.
That's like, I know.
Now we're so confused.
About like fatherhood, Beatitudes or something like that. Okay. All right. Debbie, thanks for your feedback. She said she's going to share the show. And God bless you guys. Have a great Labor Day weekend. We'll see you next Friday talking about the Beatitudes. Okay? Thanks for watching. God bless you.
Thanks for joining us for Back to the Father. And don't forget, the glory of God is the human person fully alive. If you have comments about the show, email Dave Palmer at grnonline.com.